My stepmother wore my late mother's dress to church. The congregation gasped when. It fits perfectly. My stepmother twirled in Mom's vintage dress, the ivory silk spinning around her like she owned it, like she hadn't stolen it from the garment bag I'd hidden in the attic. I bit my tongue so hard I tasted blood. But as she walked down the church aisle that Easter morning, the dress began to change. The hidden embroidery emerged, deep purple letters bleeding through the fabric like bruises. Stolen from Natalie's closet. The priest stopped mid-sentence, his eyes widening as more words appeared across the back. Thief. Liar. Homewrecker. The entire congregation of St. Mary's fell silent, 300 people holding their breath as Margaret, my stepmother of 18 months, continued walking, oblivious to the message spreading across the dress like spilled wine. My father stood frozen in our family pew, his face draining of color as he read the words everyone else could see but Margaret couldn't. Let me back up 6 months. My mother, Natalie Reed, died 3 years ago after a long battle with cancer. She was a seamstress, an artist with fabric, who'd built a small but devoted following for her custom designs. The ivory dress was her masterpiece, hand-sewn for her own wedding, updated for their 20th anniversary, worn to every Easter service for 25 years. Before she died, Mom had pulled me close, her voice barely a whisper. The ivory dress goes to you, Rosalie. For your wedding day. I've already prepared it. I thought she meant she'd altered it to fit me. I didn't understand what she'd really done until today. After Mom died, Dad fell apart. He drank too much, worked too little, and eventually fell into the arms of Margaret Winters, his secretary who'd been so supportive during this difficult time. They married barely a year after Mom's funeral, while her memorial flowers were still fresh on her grave. Margaret moved into our family home like she'd always belonged there. She redecorated everything, donated Mom's books to charity, painted over the mural Mom had hand-painted in the breakfast nook. But Mom's sewing room, that stayed locked. I'd moved all her important pieces to the attic, hiding them behind old Christmas decorations where Margaret wouldn't look. Or so I thought. This morning, Easter Sunday, I'd come downstairs to find Margaret preening in the foyer mirror, wearing the dress. How dare you? I'd breathed. Your father said I could wear anything from the house, she'd replied smoothly. This was just hanging in the attic, collecting dust. Your mother would want it to be worn, not wasted. That's my wedding dress. You're 19, Rosalie. You're not getting married anytime soon. Besides, it fits me perfectly. Like it was meant to be. Dad had walked in then, coffee in hand, and stopped short. Margaret, that's beautiful on me, isn't it, darling? She'd spun for him. Your first wife had excellent taste. The way she said first wife, like Mom was just a rough draft, and she was the final version, made my stomach turn. Dad, I'd pleaded. That's Mom's dress. Her special dress. He'd looked between us, then chosen the path of least resistance, as always. It's just a dress, Rosie. Don't make a scene. Just a dress. The dress Mom had sewn by hand, each stitch a prayer for her future. The dress she'd worn to marry him. The dress she'd been saving for me. I'd gone to church separately, unable to sit in the same car with them. I'd prayed to Mom on the drive, begged her to give me strength not to cause a scene in God's house. I should have been more specific about what kind of scene. Now, as Margaret continued down the aisle, the embroidery grew darker, more elaborate. Words appeared on the sleeves, adulteress. Across the hem, started the affair while Natalie was dying. That's when Margaret felt something was wrong. The congregation's collective gasp, the way people pulled back as she passed, my father's horror-struck face. She looked down at herself but saw only ivory silk. What? She demanded. What's wrong with you people? Mrs. Patterson, who'd been Mom's best friend, stood up. You should be ashamed of yourself. Excuse me. Father Michael, our priest who'd given Mom her last rites, stepped forward. Mrs. Reed, perhaps you should. It's Mrs. Reed Winters, Margaret corrected sharply. More words appeared, scrolling across the bodice like a news ticker. Natalie found the emails. Knew about the affair. Prepared this dress for justice. I stood up then, my voice carrying across the church. The dress is telling the truth. Mom knew. Margaret spun toward me, and as she did, the biggest revelation appeared across the train of the dress, in Mom's own handwriting, somehow photographically embedded in the fabric. I forgive you, Thomas, but you'll live with what you did. Margaret, you'll wear your sins for all to see. Rosalie, my darling girl, the real dress is in the blue garment bag. This one was always meant for her. The church erupted. Margaret was frantically trying to see what everyone was staring at, pulling at the fabric, spinning in circles like a dog chasing its tail. "What did you do?" she screamed at me. "What trick is this?" "I didn't do anything," I said calmly. "Mom was a master seamstress, remember? She knew about fabric technology, UV-reactive threads, heat-sensitive dyes. She spent her last months creating this. Her final masterpiece." Father Michael cleared his throat. "I think it would be best if everyone took a moment." But Margaret had figured it out. The dress reacted to the church's temperature, the specific lighting of St. Mary's stained glass windows, the exact conditions of Easter morning service. Mom had planned this down to the last detail. "Get it off me." Margaret clawed at the zipper, but it wouldn't budge. Another feature of Mom's design. The zipper locked when the fabric was activated. Dad finally moved, rushing to Margaret's side, trying to cover her with his suit jacket. But the words just appeared on the jacket too, bleeding through. "Thomas Reed betrayed his dying wife." He dropped the jacket like it burned him. "Natalie knew," he whispered, looking at me. "Your mother knew. She found your emails," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. 6 months before she died. The doctor visits you skipped to be with Margaret. The anniversary dinner you missed because of a work emergency. Mom knew everything. Then why didn't she divorce you? She was dying, Dad. She needed her health insurance for treatment. She needed stability for me. So she stayed quiet and planned this instead. Margaret had given up trying to remove the dress and was now attempting to flee the church. But as she reached the doors, new words appeared on the back, larger than before. "Stole $30,000 from Natalie's medical fund." She froze. Mr. Goldman, the family lawyer, stood up from his pew. "Is that true?" Dad's silence was answer enough. "The medical fund," I said, my voice shaking now. "The one Mom's friends set up for experimental treatment. The one that mysteriously had complications and couldn't be accessed. You gave it to her, didn't you, Dad? For Margaret's divorce from her first husband." Margaret turned, her face twisted with rage. "That money was rightfully mine. I earned it, putting up with your pathetic father's advances for years, waiting for your mother to finally die." The church collectively gasped. Even Dad stepped back from her. "She just wouldn't die," Margaret continued, her composure completely shattered. 3 years. 3 years of waiting, of sneaking around, of pretending to care about her battle. That money was compensation for my time. New words appeared on the dress, glowing now, confession recorded. "Check the pearl button." I smiled for the first time that morning. Mom sewed a recording device into the pearl button at the collar. "Everything you just said was recorded and automatically uploaded to the cloud. Mr. Goldman, I believe you'll find that interesting for the fraud investigation." Margaret lunged at me, but the dress, Mom's brilliant, vindictive dress, had one more surprise. The hem tightened, the fabric stiffened, and Margaret tripped, falling face-first onto the church floor. As she lay there, crying and cursing, the final message appeared, spreading across the entire back of the dress in Mom's elegant handwriting. "My dearest Rosalie, I'm sorry I had to leave you with this mess. But some sins need daylight to die. Your father will learn to live with his choices. Margaret will face justice for hers. And you, my darling girl, will know that your mother loved you enough to protect you, even from beyond. The real dress, my true wedding dress, is waiting for you. Wear it when you find someone worthy of the love your father forgot how to give. All my love, Mom. P.S. The dress will dissolve in exactly 1 hour. No evidence, just memories." Let her try to explain this to everyone. Father Michael, who'd known Mom since they were children, walked over to Margaret. "I think you should leave. And don't come back." Margaret struggled to her feet, the dress now displaying a countdown timer across the stomach. 57 minutes until dissolution. "This is assault," she screamed. "I'll sue. I'll." "You'll face fraud charges," Mr. Goldman interrupted. "Theft of funds from a cancer patient. I'll be filing charges tomorrow morning." Dad finally found his voice. "Rosalie, I didn't know about the medical fund. I swear I didn't know." "But you knew about the affair," I said. "You chose her while Mom was dying. That's enough." Margaret tried one more time to salvage something. "Thomas, tell them this is ridiculous. Tell them." "Get out," Dad said quietly. "Get out of this church. Get out of my house. Get out of my life. You can't. We're married. Not for long." As Margaret stumbled out of the church, the dress continuing its countdown, the The congregation began to whisper, then talk, then, surprisingly, applaud. Not for the drama, but for Natalie Reed, who'd found a way to protect her daughter and expose the truth, even after death. Mrs. Patterson approached me, tears in her eyes. "Your mother was the strongest woman I knew. This proves it." Father Michael nodded. "She came to confession the week before she died. She said she'd found a way to ensure justice without violence, truth without revenge." I didn't understand then. "It wasn't revenge," I said. "It was revelation." Dad stood alone in our family pew, looking lost. "Rosalie, I'm moving out," I told him. "I've already found an apartment. I'll get Mom's real dress and her other things from the house this week." "You don't have to." "Yes, I do. You broke Mom's heart while she was dying. Then you replaced her before her grave settled. I can't forgive that. Not yet. Maybe not ever." As I walked out of the church, I heard the timer on Margaret's dress hit 0. According to witnesses, it simply evaporated, leaving her standing in the parking lot in her underwear, screaming about witchcraft. The police found her 3 hours later, trying to break into our house to get her belongings. The fraud charges were filed the next day. The divorce papers the day after that. I found Mom's real dress exactly where she said it would be, in a blue garment bag hidden in her sewing room's secret compartment. With it was a letter. "My darling Rosalie, if you're reading this, then Margaret took the bait. I knew she would. She could never resist taking what wasn't hers. The real dress is yours, pure and untainted by lies. I've sewn my love into every stitch, my hopes for your future into every bead. When you wear it, know that I'm with you, proud of the woman you've become. Your father is weak, not evil. Forgive him if you can, but don't let his weakness become yours. Stand strong, speak truth, and never let anyone dim your light." The technology in the fake dress cost almost nothing. UV reactive thread from my craft supplies, heat-sensitive dye I'd been experimenting with, and timing mechanisms from old Christmas decorations. The recording device was from a Build-A-Bear. Sometimes the simplest revenge is the most elegant. Live boldly, love freely, and remember, I'm always with you. Mum. 6 months later, Margaret was convicted of fraud and theft. She served 3 months in jail and was ordered to pay restitution. Dad sold the house, unable to live with the memories. He moved to a small apartment across town, where he's slowly learning to live with his choices. I kept Mom's real dress, hanging in my apartment where I can see it every day. It reminds me that love can be both gentle and fierce, that truth will always find its way to light, and that sometimes, the best revenge is simply letting people reveal themselves. The congregation still talks about that Easter morning when Natalie Reed's dress spoke the truth. Father Michael calls it a miracle. Mr. Goldman calls it evidence. Dad calls it his reckoning. I call it Mom's final act of love, protecting me, even from beyond the grave, with nothing but needle, thread, and the perfect knowledge of exactly when the morning light would hit the church windows on Easter Sunday. Margaret never came back to our town. Last I heard, she'd moved 3 states away, telling people her ex-husband's dead wife had cursed her. In a way, she was right. Mom had cursed her with the one thing she couldn't escape, the truth, written in invisible ink, waiting for the perfect moment to be revealed. And me? I'm learning to sew, following Mom's patterns, understanding her art. Because someday, I might have a daughter who needs to know that strength can be sewn into fabric, that justice can be embroidered with patience, and that love, true love, never really dies. It just waits for the right moment to show its colors.